Installing a tuning kit into the Weihrauch HW77 or HW97.
Bay State Red Wolf Heritage Huben K1 at the shooting range. Steyr Pro X. Servus, thanks for dropping in. Yeah. Yeah.
Servus, thanks for dropping in. I'm welcoming you all, and I'm especially welcoming Michael, my trusted gunsmith, who took some time today to modify the HW77 or HW97 while I'm moderating it. We will install a 7.5 joule AirGhandi tuning kit. It is a 7.5 joule gun. You can also buy FAC kits with the full power or the export version with 16 joule. Since we have the 7.5 joule gun, we are installing the 7.5 joule kit. First of all, thanks a lot again for your support, and I'd say we just start right away by removing the stock. As you can see, this is a special stock that I had made by LP Gunstocks in Poland. And yeah, Michael is just opening the side screws on the front stock. The AirGhandi tuning kit comes with a ton of parts, which I will introduce step by step. Of course, there's a manual. Everything is secured by foamed plastic. But yeah, as I said, step by step. In this video, we want to show you that you can install the tuning kit with regular tools. You don't need gunsmith equipment, which is why we can do this in my own studio and not in Michael's workshop. Yeah, we won't need special tools. We are starting by removing the trigger and need to extract two splints. Important, in Weihrauch guns you remove from the right side, you insert on the left. This is the match trigger record, and we will replace it, since this is my own gun, with the AirGhandi tuning trigger, which you can buy at www.diabolo.de/en. Same goes for the tuning kit, of course. The trigger has a far lower trigger weight, similar to a match setup, and is super high quality. If you think the silver trigger blade does not fit your gun because you maybe have a brown stock, you can also buy it at diabolo.de/en with a golden looking brass trigger blade. Next we are removing this little pin here. And same as before, removing from the right, inserting from the left. After that, we are using a wrench size 13 to remove this screw back here. Careful, there is a spacer below, make sure you don't lose it. And now you can see, Michael just removed the cocking lever. And yeah, now is the best time to use a wrench for some extra leverage to unscrew. Little hit. Well, or a stronger one. It is loose now, and you don't need to be afraid. This is a 7.5 joule system. Yes, there is some tension on it, but it is very low, so nothing will start flying around. You often hear the wildest stories. Yeah, that was it. Now we can remove the spring with the spring guide. Since we already removed the cocking lever before, we can now remove the piston shell and the piston. And now we start cleaning it. We built ourselves a little tool for cleaning. It's a wooden stick and some paper towels around it. And yeah, after removing it, you see that it was definitely worth the effort. Next we grab the piston and remove the seal. Michael cleans it first, while I am grabbing the new tuning seal. This is a perfect replica of the VMAC tuning seal. Same material, same size with a slight cone shape. We now start using the first of 3 greases from the box. Also original VMAC greases, and we will use the seal grease first. Here for you. Yeah, and we put it on the seals so they slip on the piston easily. I'll just grab these towels here. If you don't want to soil your fingers, there are 2 ways to do so. First, there is this little brush to place the grease. Second, you will find a set of gloves in the tuning kit, which you could put on beforehand to keep your fingers clean. That's the first one. Now you see, clack, and the piston seal is in place. Michael will now grease the seal from the outside. It's important that you don't put grease on the top of the seal where he placed his index finger right now. No grease can go there or it will get into the compression chamber. So yeah, in the same go we will also grease the inner piston rail, because that's where later the spring guard will glide along, and every time when plastic gets in contact with metal, then we will use the seal grease. And don't overdo with the grease. You don't have to drown the seal in it. It's really just to support gliding. Okay. Next we take what I call the heart of the kit. It's of course the new spring. It is an original Weihrauch spring with a top head up here, and the lower spring rail is super custom fit. It is important that it is not too loose. If it is, you lose compression. If it sits too tight, it can happen that your V0 is not constant and your spread will vary. The spring is pre-greased, meaning there is a little oily film on it, which Michael removes now. The oil on the spring is a safety measure in case you keep the kit lying around a while before you are using it, and yeah, it simply prevents rust. We are removing it now and proceed with putting seal grease on the spring guard with the little brush again. We are putting it on the outside and the inside, just evenly spreading it. Now putting it back into the spring, and now he's waiting for my part. It's unpacking the spring grease. This is spread on the outside of the spring and is mainly to reduce the sound. So yeah, it's not too loud. You also get 15 grams of this, and you see how much we use from the others until now. So one of these tins will probably last a lifetime if you don't do this every day. Next we will use the AirGhandi grease, the third of the greases, to finely coat the outside of the piston and the piston shell. But the shell only up until the middle, because when you're cocking the gun later, you will see the front part in the loading area, where you will put the Diabolo later. And it simply doesn't look good if this part is full of grease. It wouldn't hurt anybody, but yeah, it just doesn't look good. And since here it's metal on metal, we are using the AirGhandi grease. It is all original VMAC grease, which has been perfected over the years by Steve Pope, the late owner of VMAC. Everybody knows the brand, and yeah, he sadly passed away in November 2020, but Lyndon Lewington, together with AirJoe, agreed to keep some of the products alive, and we are very happy to be able to sell them via jabolo.de/en in Germany and all Europe. You can now see that the piston shell is also greased up in the lower half with the AirGhandi grease. Next, we have the inner piston shell here. It's made of premium steel and it keeps the grease inside the piston. I'm handing it to Michael, and he squeezes it a bit with the spike downwards, and the opening you can see here is on the opposite side of the slit in the piston. He's just showing it, yeah, right here. And you can push it in further with the spring, but it will happen later either way. Next, we grab the second to last product from the tuning kit. It's the 5 spacers. 2 of them are synthetic, 3 are metal. Metal on metal, synthetic on synthetic, meaning we grab one of the metal spacers and put it on the piston rail. The other 4 spacers are just there in case you set your gun together, take 100 shots and realize there is some power missing. You can then use the synthetic spacers and put them on the synthetic inner spring guard, or, like we just did before, put the metal spacers on the metal piston rail. And this is your way of fine-tuning it. But the tuning kits are set for exactly 7.5 Joule with JSB exact 4.52mm diabolos, which means I am expecting that you won't need it, but in case your spring weakens after a few thousand shots or something, you can take minimal adjustments with the spacers. And now, yeah, we start putting it all back together again. First, the piston goes into the piston shell. Here we're watching out that, Michael is doing it just now, that the seal, while pushing over this square here, can you please show the camera? When pushing it over here, it gets stuck a little. That's why we carefully push against it with the screwdriver, and then we pass this square easily, and we can finally push it into the piston shell. We will then push the piston shell into the system, so this slit here matches with the opening in the system, because that's where the cocking lever will go later. Okay, next we grab the cocking lever with the safety pusher. We are inserting it in a 90-degree angle from the top into the square. You have to put it in from the top, since it has a little nick in the front, not from the side. So yeah, and then we grab the safety pin. We pushed it out from the right, we push it in from the left now. Now our cocking lever is connected again. Next we grab an old toothbrush. You can of course use your new one, but then I would start brushing teeth with it. And now we put AirGhandi grease into the system behind the thread. Again, don't overdo it. And finally we can put the spring with the spring guard inside. And can now screw the end piece back on. Here we can use our little helper again, the wrench. I don't have the power in my arms in this case. You can also use a vise, fixate the system and turn the end piece back on. No need if you have strong arms like Michael, then you can do it without. But a vise can be helpful. Now we put the nut back on with the spacer and fixate it again with a size 13 wrench. Now we're checking if it moves effortless. And now we are at the point where we already put the trigger back in. Here, Michael's just showing it for the camera. We cock the trigger by pushing in this area up here. And the cocked trigger goes into the system. And the safety here with the little spring. Right, you have to push it in. He does it with the left hand and pushes the trigger in. Make sure that the pins have holes throughout so you can put them back in. We are using the AirGhandi tuning trigger now because this will be my match gun. And that's why I'm using the best I can get. For Weihrauch air guns with a match trigger record, there's nothing better than the AirGhandi tuning trigger. Same as the tuning kit, you get it at diabolo.de/en. You see the trigger is back in and we now have to release it. Yep, that's it, released. For testing, I think we will put it back in the stock, right? Yeah, so let's do this. You could test it like this, but it's easier this way, so why make it harder? We put it back in the stock. It's being held by 3 screws, one here at the trigger rail and on the front stock left and right side. HW77 and HW97 are the same build. They just differ by one having iron sights and the other doesn't. Now we are checking the functions. Yeah, you hear the safety catching. Works fine, doesn't fire when the safety is on. Deactivated and the gun fires. Perfect. This was the whole tuning kit modification. Nothing to be afraid of. Now you have an instruction. Of course, there's also a printed one in the box. Since there's this video, you don't have to read through the whole thing. Michael, thanks a lot for your work. Nicely done. I couldn't have done it like him. With a professional at hand, the video doesn't take 2 hours. It is a lot more compact. I hope you enjoyed it and that you'll tune in again next week. That's it for today. Ciao, servus, AirGhandi.